Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're looking into some pretty interesting theories about the moon.
That's right. We're going beyond the usual moon landing stuff and really kind of diving into some alternative perspectives on what the moon is and maybe even, how it got there.
Exactly. And we're going to be drawing on a few different sources today. We've got Dark Mission, The Secret History of NASA.
We've got Human Race, Get Off Your Knees.
And we've got Who Built the Moon. So
a lot of really out there ideas in these books.
definitely. And one of the things that always gets me is how the moon is like the perfect size to create a total solar eclipse, right?
Yeah, it's pretty wild when you think about it. Like, how perfect is that?
It's like, what are the chances, right?
Yeah, and it's actually like pretty rare in our solar system to have a moon that's like proportionally that large to its planet.
Right. It makes you wonder, how did we end up with such a big moon?
Exactly. It's like almost too perfect to be just a random occurrence.
Right. Like maybe it was put there for a reason?
Yeah, and there are all these like numerical relationships between the Earth and the moon that kind of add to this whole idea.
Okay. Like what?
So for example, the moon rotates 400 times slower than Earth. And then you look at the distance, Earth turns on its axis in a day, which is like 40,000 kilometers.
Okay.
And compare that to the moon's rotation, which is just 400 kilometers.
Wow. Those are some pretty specific numbers.
Right. It's like, whoa, hold on a second. Is this just a coincidence?
Totally. And it doesn't stop there, right?
No, not even close. So the Earth spins 366 times during one orbit of the sun, and the Earth's polar circumference is 366 times bigger than the moon's.
Okay, now that's just too much to be a coincidence.
Right, like it's almost like somebody was playing a cosmic game of billiards and got everything lined up perfectly.
Yeah, and it's stuff like that that makes researchers think that, maybe the moon's placement wasn't just random.
Right, like maybe it was intentional.
Okay. So I'm starting to see why some people think the moon might be artificial. But how do ancient structures here on Earth tie into all of this?
Well, have you ever heard of the megalithic yard?
I don't think so.
So it's basically a unit of measurement about 0.829 meters that this guy, Professor Alexander Thom, discovered.
Okay.
He was studying ancient stone circles, like Stonehenge,
Right.
and he found that this measurement was used like super consistently in all these megalithic structures all over the world.
So it's like these ancient builders, even though they were separated by huge distances, were all using the same ruler.
Yeah, pretty much. And this is where it gets crazy.
Okay, lay it on me.
So these researchers, Knight and Butler, in their book Who Built the Moon, they suggest that the circumferences of the moon, the Earth, and the sun all conform to this megalithic yard.
Wait, what? Seriously?
Yeah, it's
That's a huge connection.
yeah.
So you're telling me these ancient monuments could be clues to the moon's origins?
It's definitely a possibility. I mean, is it just a crazy coincidence, or is there like a deeper link we're missing here?
Right, like a connection between these ancient structures and the celestial body?
Yeah, exactly. It's mind-blowing.
Okay, well, my mind is definitely blown. And then there's this whole theory about the moon being hollow.
Yeah, that one's a classic.
It sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
It does, but there's actually some evidence that kind of supports it. For example, the moon's density is way lower than it should be.
How much lower are we talking?
It's only about 60% of Earth's density, which is like significantly less dense than we'd expect for something that big.
So if it's not solid rock, what else could be going on in there?
Well, some people think that the moon could be hollow or at least have big empty spaces inside.
Okay, that's interesting. And is there anything that actually supports that idea?
So during the Apollo 12 mission, NASA decided to crash the lunar module into the moon.
What? Why would they do that?
They wanted to create some seismic waves so they could study them with these seismometers they had set up.
Oh, I see.
But then something totally unexpected happened. The impact created these shock waves that lasted way longer than anyone thought they would.
Really? So what happened? Did the moon break apart or something?
No.
Yeah.
It didn't break apart. It rang like a bell.
A bell?
Yeah, like for over 30 minutes. The whole moon was vibrating like a giant gong.
You're kidding? That's crazy.
I know, even the scientists were like, what the heck is going on here? This is not what we expected.
But what did they think was causing it?
Well, some of them started to think that maybe the moon was hollow, and that's why the vibrations were able to travel through it for so long.
It's like the moon is hiding something beneath the surface.
Right, like there's more to it than meets the eye.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty good place to stop for now, I think.
Yeah.
We've already covered a lot of ground, and we've got even more mind-blowing stuff to talk about next time.
Yeah, we're just getting started.
Yeah.
It's like it's saying, hey, look a little closer,
Yeah, I like that. So we've got this potentially hollow moon in this crazy precise position, and it's maybe connected to these ancient structures here on Earth. What other kind of out there ideas have you come across?
Well, there are some pretty interesting perspectives from indigenous traditions, actually.
Oh, really?
Okay, so there's this Zulu shaman, Credo Mutwa,
Okay.
and his claims are like pretty far out there,
Hmm.
but they definitely add like another layer to this whole thing.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What did he have to say about the moon?
Well, he believed that the moon wasn't always there. Like it was brought here
Brought here
by who?
by a reptilian race, he said.
A reptilian race. Now that sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, it does sound crazy.
Yeah.
But he was a really respected shaman, like
Mhm.
he had a lot of knowledge about Zulu cosmology and traditions.
Right.
And actually, his claims are kind of reflected in some Zulu artifacts too. Like there's this thing called the Necklace of the Mysteries.
Necklace of the Mysteries.
What's that?
It's this ancient artifact that supposedly shows these like flying saucer type things coming from the moon.
Oh, wow. That's wild. Okay, so what did Mutwa think the purpose of bringing the moon here was?
He believed that it had a huge impact on Earth. Like it changed our rotation and created the tides the way they are now.
Wow.
He even said it affected women's menstrual cycles.
Really? That's a lot of changes to attribute to the moon.
Right. And he didn't think it was all good either.
What do you mean?
Well, he saw the moon as like a tool of control, like a way for this reptilian race to manipulate humanity.
Oh, wow. That's intense. And that kind of ties in with some of those like more esoteric theories out there too, right?
Exactly, like David Icke's idea of the moon matrix.
Right, right. So remind me what that is again?
Okay, so Icke believes that the moon acts like a broadcast station, basically.
A broadcast station. What's it broadcasting?
Well, he says it transmits information that influences how we perceive reality.
Wait, so you're saying like the moon is sending subliminal messages down to Earth?
It's not that simple. It's more about the energetic influence of the moon,
Okay.
He thinks that the moon's signals, or maybe its gravitational pull, messes with the information that's encoded in the light from the sun.
Okay, so the moon is like distorting our reality.
Yeah, that's the gist of it. He calls it the moon matrix, and he thinks it keeps us trapped in this limited state of awareness.
Oh, wow. Okay, so if the moon is broadcasting something, what's the message?
Well, according to Icke, it's all about reinforcing the reptilian brain.
The reptilian brain.
What's that?
That's like the most primitive part of our brain. The part that's driven by fear, aggression, and like territorial instincts.
Okay, so the moon is making us more fearful and aggressive.
Basically. And when we're stuck in those negative emotions, we're easier to control,
Right, like we don't question things as much.
Exactly.
Right.
And we're less likely to connect with our true potential.
Man, that's kind of a bleak outlook. But is there any way to break free from this moon matrix?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
Icke says that breaking free requires a shift in consciousness.
A shift in consciousness? Like what?
It's about moving away from the dominance of the reptilian brain and towards a more enlightened way of being.
It's like choosing love over fear.
Exactly. Choosing connection over division and truth over illusion.
It sounds beautiful, but also really hard to do.
It definitely takes work, but it starts with awareness.
Awareness of what? Of the patterns of manipulation. Understanding how this moon matrix operates. And then consciously choosing to step outside of its influence.
Okay, so it's about being mindful of our thoughts and emotions and not letting those primal instincts control us.
Precisely. It's about taking back control of our minds and creating a reality that's aligned with who we truly are.
Okay, I see how this is all connected now. Like the moon's weird characteristics, the ancient structures, the Zulu shaman's story, the moon matrix, it's all pointing to something bigger.
Exactly. It's like we're getting a glimpse behind the curtain, seeing a deeper truth that's been hidden for a long time.
It's both exciting and kind of scary.
It definitely challenges everything we thought we knew.
For sure. Okay, going back to the megalithic yard for a second.
Yeah.
If the moon and the earth and the sun all have this ancient measurement encoded in them, doesn't that suggest some kind of like master plan?
Totally. It suggests that there's a connection between those celestial bodies and our planet, that it's not just random.
And if that Zulu shaman was right about the reptilian race bringing the moon here, maybe those ancient builders were somehow connected to them too.
Whoa. It's a wild thought, right?
Totally. Like, imagine if humans used to be in contact with these beings from other worlds who had advanced knowledge and technology.
Right. Maybe they taught us about the megalithic yard and how to align our structures with the cosmos.
It's like that ancient astronaut theory stuff.
Exactly. But the big question is why? What was their purpose?
Yeah, Were they trying to help us or use us?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it's one that we may never know the answer to for sure.
True. But just thinking about these possibilities is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's what makes this whole exploration so fascinating.
Yeah. It really makes you wonder, like, are we just scratching the surface here? You know?
It's a mystery that goes back thousands of years, connecting ancient civilizations to these cosmic events.
Speaking of ancient civilizations, you mentioned that book, Human Race, Get Off Your
Yeah.
Knees, goes into some pretty wild stuff about the Anunnaki and their connection to humans. What can you tell me about that?
Okay, so the Anunnaki are these deities that show up in ancient Sumerian texts.
Okay.
And according to those texts, they came to Earth like a super long time ago, hundreds of thousands of years.
Wow. What were they doing here?
They were looking for gold, apparently.
Gold, really? So like a cosmic gold rush?
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. And the story goes that they genetically modified early humans to be their slaves to mine that gold for them.
Whoa. That's intense. It sounds like something out of a movie.
It does, right?
Yeah.
But those Sumerian tablets talk about like a whole complex relationship between the Anunnaki and humans.
Like what kind of relationship?
Well, there are stories about rebellion and interbreeding and even like the creation of a new human that was easier to control.
Hold on. A new human. What does that even mean?
It's kind of vague, but some people think it means they manipulated human genetics to make certain lineages more susceptible to external control.
So are we talking about bloodlines here?
Yeah.
Like some people are more vulnerable to this reptilian influence than others?
It's a controversial idea for sure, but it has been explored by a lot of researchers. And when you look at history, you do see certain bloodlines that have held onto power for centuries, often through violence and manipulation.
It's a disturbing thought, but I can see how it fits into this whole puzzle we've been talking about.
Exactly. And if there is a connection between those bloodlines and the moon matrix, it just adds another layer of complexity to it all.
Okay, so we've got this potential moon matrix, maybe even bloodlines that are more susceptible to it.
Yeah.
It all sounds pretty overwhelming,
Yeah.
honestly. Is there any hope for breaking free from this control system?
Absolutely. Remember, we're not just our physical bodies, we're also beings of consciousness.
Right.
And we have the power to transcend these limitations.
So it's about taking back control of our minds and our destiny.
Exactly. It's about seeing through the illusions, recognizing the manipulation, and making choices that align with our true selves.
It sounds like a journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
Like waking up to our real potential.
It is. And it takes courage and awareness and a willingness to question everything we thought we knew.
Well, I think it's safe to say we've only just scratched the surface of this whole moon mystery. We've explored its weird characteristics, its possible connection to ancient structures, the claims of that Zulu shaman, and the mind-blowing ideas of the moon matrix and reptilian control.
It's been quite a ride, and hopefully it's made you curious to learn more.
Definitely. We encourage you to check out those books we mentioned, Dark Mission, Human Race, Get Off Your Knees, and Who Built the Moon. See what resonates with you. Remember, questioning the accepted narrative is how we expand our understanding of ourselves and the universe.
Keep those minds open, keep exploring, and keep looking up at the stars.
And until next time, stay curious.